Learning outcomes. After studying this module, you will be able to know the circumstances when fingerprinting a deceased becomes necessary. Prerequisite before fingerprinting a corpse. Methods of recording fingerprints in recent death cases. Methods of recording fingerprints when the dead body is in rigor mortis state. Methods of recording fingerprints when decomposition sets in a dead body. Introduction. Obtaining fingerprints for identification is a long established law enforcement practice. When this practice started, it was most common to use printer's ink and apply it to the fingers, which were then pressed onto paper cards. Later, specialized inks were employed to improve the quality of the prints obtained. While ink is still used today, many agencies are now using computer live scan methods to record reference prints. One of the challenges in obtaining reference prints has always been how to obtain them from the deceased. Ink has often been used with success, but it can be difficult, especially with Rigor stiffened or mummified fingers. Live scan is not practical option, at least not until someone develops a portable scanner. In episodes of mass disaster and in many cases of homicide and drowning, the dead bodies of the victims are beyond recognition. At times, decomposition and animal scavengers may alter a body's condition to an extent that visual identification becomes impossible. Under these conditions, post-mortem fingerprinting becomes necessary. Depending on the circumstances leading to death, as well as the extent of post-mortem changes like rigor mortis, deterioration and dehydration, the friction-rich detail of a corpse are less clear as compared to those of a living person. Hence, post-mortem fingerprinting is more cumbersome than ante-mortem fingerprinting. The post-mortem fingerprinting should be carried out only after the pathological examination of the dead body is over. Otherwise, the scrapings from the fingernails becomes contaminated with ink or powder, rendering their analysis difficult.
Preliminary requisites. There are several methods now being used in the fingerprinting of deceased persons. Examples are the folded card method or the use of special equipment such as the post-mortem spoon. In the more difficult cases where the body has partially decomposed or mummified, a special preparation may be required before suitable inked impressions are obtainable. In some of the situations that may confront the technician, he may be dealing with a body in a state of advanced decomposition, where the epidermis loosens itself from the inner layer of skin or dermis. The friction skin may have been exposed to severe heat or submerged for prolonged periods of time in water. The fingers may have dried out, become mummified, macerated, etc. Each one of these situations requires its own solution in order to restore the skin to a state suitable for the recording and photographing of the rich detail. Most of the standard post-mortem techniques are described by Moisans. Regardless of the method employed, we must keep in mind the purpose of fingerprinting the deceased, that is, simply to obtain as much clearly defined rich detail from each finger as is possible. This will hold true whether we have an unknown dead or when the prints will be compared with latents discovered at the scene of a burglary. Before recording the fingerprints of the deceased, a visual examination of the hand is conducted so as to determine whether the subject's hands are clean or soiled. In case the hands are coated with dirt, debris, or any other contaminant, the fingers are first cleansed. Care must be exercised that the ridges are not compromised during cleansing. The hand is dipped in soapy water or alcohol depending on the nature and extent of adhering material. The fingers are then carefully dried to eliminate moisture on the ridges. This step is necessary since there is no body heat to aid the drying. To achieve this, the fingers are blotted with a clean, lint-free paper towel or cotton wipes impregnated with isopropyl alcohol may also be used. At times, the hands may be immersed in hot water for a few minutes. This not only enables the skin to dry quickly, but also makes the fingers more flexible. Alternately, a hair dryer may be used to eradicate moisture on the fingertips. Thereafter, mid-range photographs of the hands and close-up of each digit are taken. Next, the method of recording the fingerprint has to be decided. This is dictated by the state in which the body is found. In context of post-mortem fingerprinting, three different stages of the corpse need to be considered. First is recent death stage, second, rigor mortis stage, and third, decomposition stage. Different techniques of fingerprinting have to be called into action for each stage. Whatever be the methodology being adopted, it must be kept in mind that a single fingerprint of any one digit may not serve the purpose, since, due to the wrinkles and depressions in the skin, an optimum quality impression may not be obtained despite reconditioning of the finger. Therefore, unlike ante-mortem fingerprinting, multiple finger impressions should be recorded for each digit during post-mortem fingerprinting. Combining the information obtained from several imprints of the same finger may lead to the identity of the corpse. Next, we move on to stage 1 or recent death. In case a corpse is found within 4 to 7 hours of death, the external organs, including the fingers, are quite flexible. In such cases, it is possible to secure the fingerprints of the corpse by any of the following three methods. First is fingerprint pad method. As in case of ante-mortem fingerprinting, the imprints of a corpse may be recorded using a fingerprint pad. In ante-mortem fingerprint recording, the finger is rolled over the pad, whereas in post-mortem fingerprinting, it is the pad which is rolled over the finger. For this purpose, it is more convenient to use a single-digit fingerprint pad rather than a large conventional one. This method may be tried out only if the fingers are sufficiently flexible. Next is fingerprint ink method. If the fingers of the corpse are only moderately flexible, the fingerprint ink method is adopted for recording impressions. A drop of fingerprint ink is placed over a spatula and spread out using an ink roller. A horizontal roller is preferred over a vertical one. A fingerprint card is next placed in a fingerprint spoon. The latter is a curved metallic device that is used for recording post-mortem finger impressions. With the index card firmly embedded inside its curved part, the spoon is rolled over the inked finger. The impression gets imprinted on the card, which is then preserved for record. The procedure is repeated with the remaining fingers. At a time, only one particular finger is inked, and after its impression has been printed, the next finger is inked. Now we will study about the fingerprint powder and tape method. If the fingers are quite rigid, the fingerprint powder and tape method is commonly used. In this method, black fingerprint powder is applied on the fingertip with the aid of a camel hair brush. The quantity of the powder should be sufficient to cover the entire pattern area. Any excess is blown off. A piece of fingerprint lifting tape is pressed firmly against the fingertip. The tape piece is removed and pasted over the appropriate box of the index card. Since the tape is quite elastic in nature, it readily conforms to the shape of the finger. Hence, the entire ridge pattern is reproduced by this method. Next, we move on to stage 2, that is, corpse in rigor mortis state. If the onset of rigor mortis begins, the fingers need to be straightened before recording the imprints. This may be done by pressing on the finger just above the knuckle zone. Another method is to bend the wrist in direction of the forearm and press each finger close to the palm. If these methods fail, then a finger straightener may be used to unclasp the digits. If the body has remained in a state of rigor mortis for a long duration, the skin of the fingers become shrunken and wrinkled. In such cases, a suitable fluid must be injected beneath the skin so as to remove the wrinkles and to restore the fingers to their original shapes. Hot water, melted paraffin wax, and oils may be used for this purpose. However, a mixture of gelatin and glycerine in the ratio of 1:7 volume by volume has been found to be most effective. The heated mixture is hypodermically injected beneath the finger tissues. Air too may be injected hypodermically to flatten the shrunken fingers. The needle is inserted at the extremities of the longitudinal axis of the finger, about 4 to 5 millimeters below the fingertips, about 1 to 1.5 ml of air is injected to inflate the tissue. The needle is quickly withdrawn and massaging closes the perforated spot. If the dead body has been exposed to hot climate for a long time, the fingers become very hard and dry. In such cases, the digits are amputated. This is generally done with the aid of a bone spine. The amputated fingers are soaked in an aqueous solution of potassium hydroxide. Each finger is immersed in a separate vessel. The strength of the solution may vary from 1.5 to 3% depending on the condition of the corpse. Once the fingers have been restored to their original lengths, these are removed from the solution. This may take 4 to 10 hours. The amputated fingers are then washed with distilled water and then soaked in 1% formaldehyde solution. Concentrated alkali solutions should be avoided for rehydrating the fingers since these tend to damage the ridges. Therefore, it is better to soak the fingers in a weaker alkali like ammonium hydroxide than in a stronger one like potassium hydroxide. The digits are immersed in a 50% solution of ammonium hydroxide for 24 hours, in 75% solution for the next 24 hours, and in 100% solutions for further 24 hours. Using this method, it was possible to identify a man who had been killed 3 months earlier and whose body had been dumped in a rubbish heap. Ethylene diamine tetraacetic acid, or EDTA, a chelating reagent, may also be injected to inflate the fingers. The reagent is dissolved in a saturated detergent solution and the pH is adjusted to 7.5. The method works even in the absence of pH adjustment but takes a much longer time. In either case, it gives satisfactory to good fingerprint patterns. Dehydrated fingers may be softened by injecting two commercially available formulations, Metaflow and Restorative. The former is an embalming pre-injection fluid that is used to restore permeability to the cell membrane, while the latter is a biopolymer that is used to rehydrate desiccated tissues. The mixture is beneficial in that it neither damages the ridge details nor requires extensive monitoring. Leaving the digits immersed in the test solution even after optimum level of softening has occurred does not impair the ridge characteristics. By this method, it was possible to identify a 14-year-old girl child whose body was recovered in a wood almost 2 months after she died. Irrespective of the manner in which fingers are restored, the prints are recorded by the fingerprint pad method or fingerprint ink method or fingerprint powder and tape method. These methods have been enumerated in the previous section. Now we will study about the stage 3 or corpse in a state of decomposition. Cases in which the skin of a corpse has started decaying are the most difficult ones to handle as far as retrieving of fingerprints is concerned. In such cases, normally only a small part of the rich pattern persists. The pattern bearing skin of fingertips is peeled off and placed in a solution of formaldehyde. The skin fragment of each finger is immersed in a separate container. Formaldehyde not only retards further decomposition of the skin fragment but also hardens it so that subsequent recording becomes easier. The person authorized to take fingerprints wears gloves and places skin pieces on his own fingers. Thereafter, the rolled impressions are recorded using fingerprint pad method. In some cases, the outer surface of epidermis is broken down and the rich characteristics are blurred. However, the rich design on the undersurface of the skin may still persist. In such cases, the skin is first loosened from the flesh by boiling in water. Thereafter, the skin is peeled off and placed on a cardboard with inner surface turned outward. The ridge pattern is now reverse of the original. A better way is to take a cast of the underneath skin and then print from the mold. In extreme cases, the tissue may be decomposed so badly as to preclude removal of skin. X-ray photographs of the fingertips often reveal the rich pattern in such cases. An opaque material such as barium sulfate or lead carbonate is injected in the inner surface of the fingers, which are then X-rayed. The photographs display the bony structure of the fingers in addition to the rich details.
Summary. For recording the fingerprints of the deceased, the fingers need to be reconditioned. The method of reconditioning depends on the state in which the corpse is recovered. There are three methods by which the finger impressions are generally retrieved: fingerprint pad method, fingerprint ink method, and fingerprint powder and tape method. In ante-mortem fingerprinting, the subject has to be conditioned himself or herself with respect to recording paraphernalia. In post-mortem fingerprinting, it is the equipment that has to be manipulated with respect to the subject.